That was a really great presentation. Can you tell me how you got involved on this research project?
Well, in winter quarter of 2015, I took a seminar course with Dr. Frank Tobias Higbee. He sent us all down to the archive to begin looking at this giant pile of 44 boxes of research that had just been donated to UCLA. So our class of 5 or 6 people started going through these boxes one by one, and we each uncovered different things that we found really interesting. To me, it was the story of these janitors in Century City. So I started doing a project for Professor Higbee's class, and in the next quarter, I continued it on and added multimedia elements to the research that I'd already conducted.
Wow, that's so interesting. I think that as an undergrad, it's could feel intimidating to do a research project with a professor, and so you mentioned that you continued the research project after your class was over. Is that an option for students? If someone's intimidated in taking that approach, is there any advice that you would give, or how students can engage their professors in doing something like that?
Definitely. Professors are experts in their field, and you should really take advantage of their advice while you're here at UCLA. You have to remember that they're teaching these classes and they're involved in their research because they find it really interesting too. I could tell Professor Higbee was very excited by the fact that some student wanted to engage with him and help him go through this research and create accessible work for future populations to look at. So they want to be involved in the research just as much as you do. Developing a great relationship with professors as well can give you opportunities like letters of recommendation, future research, and just help you make connections in general here at UCLA.
Thank you. That's really helpful. So I'm also thinking about students who are putting together a presentation for the first time and may feel overwhelmed. How do you know which parts of your research to select for a presentation? Do you have any advice?
Well, first of all, you should be able to tell a bit what parts of your research will be useful for the general population by what you uncover in your literature review. If you find something that you don't see covered as much, or that there's a lot of research on maybe and you find an extra element of it, that's definitely important. But what I found in my personal project, the research that I chose to expand on was the research that I found especially interesting, the individual narrative stories of people. There isn't a lot of information on that because no one had ever really looked at the information in the boxes that we uncovered before. So we were able to see a lot of personal stories like that of Anna Valise and other organizers and tell those stories for the first time.
Great. So just to recap, it's main findings in your literature review, but then also to include new findings or maybe even some limitations that you want to discuss.
Definitely. And that opens the way as well for future students and researchers to expand upon your research.
Great. Thank you so much. And so what do you think is the most important thing to remember when you're giving a presentation? What advice would you give students?
I think the most important advice to remember is think about if you were sitting in the presentation, what would you find interesting in the thing that the presenter is saying in front of you? Is it your methodologies? Is it your narrative aspect? Or is it just plain and simple your findings? The things that you find interesting are going to be the things that other students in your class find interesting as well.
And do you have any advice for students who get really nervous about presenting?
Just remember that your information is what you're an expert on. And so other students in your class are going to be interested by hearing for the first time the things that you have uncovered. They're not experts at what you've researched, you are. So no matter what you say, it's going to sound novel and interesting to the students in your class.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining us.